of a plique. A plique is the technique whereby you apply one piece of fabric onto another. It could be all sorts of different shapes, and you can build up a whole picture by using lots of different shapes. To start with, you need to be clear about what is your background fabric, and this today is going to be the background fabric, the dark green. For now, you can put that out of the way. You need to back the pieces of fabric you want to use as your shapes with Bondaweb. This is Bondaweb. It usually comes in a roll. It feels like greaseproof paper on one side, and then it has a rough side, which is the adhesive. And when the adhesive comes into contact with heat, it will melt. So you do need to be very careful with the iron close to it, because it will make the iron and the ironing board sticky. Cut some pieces of Bondaweb just a little bit smaller than your piece of fabric, and using a hot iron, iron the rough side down onto the fabric, and you will see that immediately it will stick to the fabric. And I'll just do that again to show you. So cut your Bondaweb slightly smaller than your piece of fabric and iron down with a hot iron. You will have the shiny side facing you. You now need to draw your shape, and it's a good idea to have a template for this. Thanks, Helen. And that's what Paul said to sort of do. Draw around your template with a black pen, and then cut this out using some nice sharp scissors. And you can cut all your shapes out at this stage. You can draw and cut all your shapes if you want to. So I've just got an orange leaf shape here. When and only when you're ready to stick it down onto your background fabric, peel off the greaseproof side of the paper. You just have to get hold of the corner, pull it off, and you will find that on the fabric is a sticky residue. This piece is rubbish and you can get rid of it. Then you can arrange your shape where you need it on your work. So you might arrange a variety of shapes on your work. You might just build them up. Take the iron and iron it on when you're sure you've got it in the right place. Okay. So take your shape to the sewing machine. You need to have set your sewing machine on a zigzag stitch, width stitch 4 on this one. No, stop that, Helen. I'll start that whole thing again. Okay. Then you need to go to your sewing machine. This should be set on a satin stitch. To do this, you need to select zigzag, put your stitch width on a fairly wide stitch, and in this case it's on number 4, and your stitch length on 0.5. You may need to adjust your machine because of the type and age of the machine. Put your work under the presser foot with the outside edge of the shape in the middle of the presser foot. And this is important because the stitch will then cover both the shape and the background fabric. Put the presser foot down and start machining, guiding your work with the centre of the presser foot on the outside shape. If you want to turn a corner, it's best to bring your needle up with the balance wheel, make sure the needle then goes back down into your work, put the presser foot up and swing it until you have the outside shape on the centre of the presser foot again. And then continue until you've been around the outside edge of the whole shape. Remember, if you want to turn a corner, just make sure your needle's down and you can just swivel your work as you go. You mustn't have any raw edges. all the edges should be stitched. I'm turning the corner again, so making sure my needle's down, press the foot up and swivelling. It's best not to watch the needle, but to watch the centre of the presser foot on the outside edge. And back we come to the beginning, and that's it. You may need to adjust your stitch. If you're using a small shape, you would need a smaller stitch. If you're using a bigger shape, you may want to go to a bigger stitch, and this is usually achieved by adjusting the stitch width. And that's it, Helen, and the machine behaved this time. I might just add one more shape. So if I cut out a yellow leaf, I might then start building up my pattern before I stitch. Here again I need to peel off the backing paper, throwing that piece away and ironing down the sticky side. Now I might just overlap that, which is why I wouldn't need to stitch underneath there. And you can build up your shapes like this, stitching as you go or just stitching an individual shape. So we now move to the sewing machine. The sewing machine should be set on what we call a satin stitch. Your stitch selector should be on zigzag. Your stitch width should be on fairly wide, and in this case it's on number 4, and your stitch length should be on 0.5. You may need to adjust to this depending on the machine that you're using. Put the edge of your shape on the middle, underneath the middle of the presser foot. Put the presser foot down and start following around the shape. It's best here not to watch the needle, but to watch the middle of the presser foot as you go round. You can always stop with your needle down, put the presser foot up and turn, but keep the middle of the presser foot on the outside edge of the shape, following it around, steering it around. Here I'm stopping to put my needle down, putting the presser foot up and swivelling the shape around, turning the corner as I go. Now we've got an issue with the sewing machine. I might be able to overcome this. And again, let me stop it. Oh, yeah, the machine's playing up. Remember, if you're going to turn a corner, put the needle down, put the presser foot up, and then you can swivel your work. And keep the outside edge. Done it again. Turn the corner, remember that you can put the needle down using the presser foot, using the balance wheel, put the presser foot up and turn the corner. No, it's not doing it, Helen. I don't know what's the matter with this. Oh. Turn the corner, you just continue like this until you have stitched round your whole shape. You mustn't allow any raw edges to just remain raw. They all need to be stitched. You may need to adjust your zigzag shape and size to do this. If you're using a big shape, use a big stitch. If it's a small shape, then make your stitch smaller. And that would be it.